Sitting in the motherfucking house beating my dick all day, right? I didn't want to give it up, all because of me. Shot himself in the head. He had to take over and take care of the family. Started driving Uber Eats. I started getting another job. I will be able to quit my job one day. $11 an hour. I got off that call and I just sat in my chair like, there's no way I just made $1,000 in literally an hour's Zoom call. If you need to get on that motherfucking bike and start delivering food, brother, get the motherfucking bike and start pedaling. YouTube, welcome to another video, man. I am back, right? 10 long days of no video, fellas. I just been plotting, kind of refilling the catalog of what I want to make. But today we're going to get into a great video topic, which is going to be the 3 limiting beliefs that I had to eliminate to completely transform my life, fellas. If you don't know my story, I used to be 260 pounds, fat as fuck, right? Belly hanging over my dick. Couldn't fit the clothes that I wanted to wear. Super unconfident when it came to chicks. Social outings. I was always nervous around people because I always thought they was looking at me because I was fat as fuck, right? And I even had chicks tell me when I was in high school that they wouldn't even want to date me because my ass was fatter than theirs, right? That kind of shit and hearing those kind of comments completely destroyed me, my confidence, the way I carried myself, my aura, all of that shit. It completely destroyed it, right? And I had to rebuild that, fellas. I had to rebuild, completely transform and rebuild myself, right? But it all started with me eliminating a lot of limiting beliefs. And one of the biggest reasons why people never get in shape, one of the biggest reasons why people never make the money they want to make or get the chicks that they want is because they have this limiting belief in their head. They have this thought in their head that it's not possible, right? There's three super big ones that you must eliminate in order for you to completely transform your life as a man, right, fellas? When I was in high school, I was super fat as fuck. Fast forward now, right? I'm in one of the best shapes in my life, right? I've lost over 100 pounds. I'm making more money than I ever made in my life. Am I where I want to be financially? No, but I'm in a much better spot, much better position, physically, financially, and mentally, right? And that's what we're gonna get into. Fellas, the first limiting belief that you must eliminate, we'll call it physical. All right. So like I said, fellas, when I mean physical, obviously I'm talking about physique wise, right? When I was 260 pounds, fat as fuck, barely hanging over my dick, couldn't fit the clothes that I wanted to, right? Chicks telling me they wouldn't date me because my ass was fatter than theirs. I hated that shit, right? I felt like shit. I looked like shit, and you can see it in my aura, right? And one of the reasons why it took me so long to change is because I had this belief, fellas, I had this belief in my mind that I would never be able to get abs. I would never be able to get a ripped six pack or like broad shoulders or cuts, right? I always had this belief that my body was just always meant to be fat. I was always meant to be fat. I was always meant to be the fat kid in the group, right? That was the belief that I have. And I truly, truly believe that, fellas. And it took me a long time to finally realize that, I could change, that I could put myself in a better position physically, right? But the reason I had this limiting belief is because I wasn't cashing the checks daily. And when I mean cashing the checks daily, fellas, is like I wasn't putting in the necessary work that would give me the confidence in order to believe that I can change my physique, right? I was still eating like shit. I wasn't working out, right? I was still not putting myself in social outings and becoming more confident in front of people, right? I was hiding. I was a super big introvert. I would stay in my room, play video games all day, not do shit, right? And it got to a point to fellas like I got so comfortable being alone, I didn't know how to be around motherfuckers, right? And it was all because my physical appearance, right? I didn't believe that I deserved abs. I didn't believe that I deserved to have the physique that I truly, truly wanted. So fellas, how did I gain this belief? Fellas, what changed was I started to show up every single day, right? I started to exercise the daily habits that would breed change, right? I started to track my macros, right? I use MyFitnessPal to track my macros. I started showing up to the gym every day, right? I started doing my cardio sessions, not skipping any of them, right? I started making sure I was waking up on time so that I could go to the gym and get my workout in, right? I started building the daily habits and creating small wins for myself, which in turn gave me confidence, right? And one of the biggest things, fellas, in eliminating this physical self-belief is you want to see a little bit of results. This is the reason why people want to lose weight so fast, right? When people come to me, they be like, oh, I want to lose this such amount weight and super, super fast. I want to do it in 2 weeks, right? Obviously, it's damn near impossible to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks, and if you do it, it's something going on wrong, right? But once we get that confidence of I'm seeing progress, right? We start to believe, right? We start to want more. We start to get hungry for more, right? But in order for us to actually get that confidence, we need to see some kind of result, right? And how do we see those results, fellas? We got to start putting in the fucking work. We got to start putting the daily fucking wins. So when I mean daily wins when it comes to physical, fellas, the first thing I did was track my calories, fellas. So, right, I track my calories. This is one of the biggest components to see fucking physique changes super fast. It's tracking your calories. If you know exactly what you're putting in your body, you can literally manipulate this shit and lose weight super fast. How did I track my calories, fellas? I downloaded an app called MyFitnessPal, right? Basically, what MyFitnessPal is, fellas, it's literally an app that you can log what you eat. Like, it has everything in its database from any fucking food at any restaurant, anything you think of, you can search that shit up and log it in, and it'll give you the calorie amount, right? So that's the first thing I did. I downloaded MyFitnessPal. So now that I have MyFitnessPal, how do I know how much calories that I need to eat? So if you want to do this super fast and give yourself a super quick starting point, obviously there's a deeper way to do this, but this is for somebody just starting and we don't want to do all the math and extra shit. All you're gonna do, fellas, if let's say you're gonna take your body weight and multiply it by 10, right? So if I'm 200 pounds, fellas, I'm gonna take that and multiply it by 10, right? So 200 times 10 would be 2,000 calories, right? So that's what I would start calorie wise. That's how many calories I would eat in a day. So that's what I would put into MyFitnessPal. Hey, I want to be eating 2,000 calories a day or under that, which is gonna put me in a deficit, right? Now, obviously, if you're super fat, like 300, 400 pounds, you're not gonna start by eating 4,000 calories. You won't lose a fucking pound, I promise, right? You're probably eating that much, and which is the reason why you're fat as fuck, right? So if you're super, super overweight, I always tell people, if you're like 300 and over, take this number and do it by 5, right? So instead of, let's say I'm 300 pounds, and I times that by 5, 1,500 calories, right? You'll start there. If I'm 400 pounds and I do that by 5, 2,000 calories. Your start there, right? But if you're in that 230, 260, 280 range, 10 is fine. Now that we've tracked our calories, now we need to figure out what kind of workouts am I going to be doing? How am I going to get active? How am I going to get physically active to completely change my physique, right? Diet is most important. We took care of that. Now we got to get into the actual workout plan. Fellas, it's so easy. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But the first thing I want you to do is come up with how many days do you want to work out, right? How much time do you have to work out per week, right? It could be 3, right? It could be 4, or you want to do 5, right? If you're super, super busy, start with 3. If you have a little bit of extra time, do 4. If you have a lot of fucking time and all you're trying to do is focus on losing weight, do 5 days a week, right? But you need to figure out 3, 4, or 5 days, right? Bare minimum 3, okay? Once you figure that out, fellas, you're literally just gonna go to ChatGPT, right? Right? And this is what I need you niggas to use ChatGPT for, to actually help yourself, right? You don't need me to build a workout plan. You can literally go to ChatGPT, say, hey, you're gonna type in, hey, I'm this amount of weight, eating this amount of calories. I only got time to work out 3 days a week. Build me a workout plan for 3 days. You'll type that exactly and you'll put it in the ChatGPT and it'll give you a whole fucking workout plan, right? You take that workout plan, you screenshot it, save it. That's your workout plan. Boom, right? You can do that in 5 to 10 minutes. You got your calorie count, you got your workout plan. Now it's time to fucking act, right? And fellas, once you get this information, the only thing you have to do now is act on it, right? Use the MyFitnessPal. Track every fucking calorie. Don't skip a workout. Do every rep. Do every cardio session, right? Whatever the fuck you need to do to get the daily wins, do it every single day. No fucking excuses, right? What this is gonna do, fellas, if you follow this system and do this to the T and actually lock in on it, you're gonna start to see progress, right? You're gonna start to see results. Once the results start to come, fellas, this is where the belief starts to become present, right? Once you see a little bit of results, you're gonna want to keep going because you know what the fuck you're doing is working. You're gonna get hungry and hungry and hungry, stacking the daily fucking wins, fellas. Doing a cardio session, waking up early enough so that you can get to the gym, right? Tracking, meal prepping so that you can hit your macros, right? Adding these daily tiny wins is gonna give you the fucking confidence because it's gonna breed results. I promise you, if you do that, it will work, right? But you have to see the proof. Once you give yourself the proof, right? That's when the belief comes. That's when you know that shit, I can do this. I can get the physique I want. I can get abs. I can get cuts. I can look like that motherfucker on Instagram, right? But it all starts with you building that confidence, right? Putting in that motherfucking work so that you can see that the work that you're doing is going to fucking be successful, right? Confidence comes from accomplishments, right? Your accomplishments is going to be the shit you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Meal prepping, working out, cardio sessions, saying no to going out and partying and eating bullshit, right? That those accomplishments is going to breed confidence, right? And then once you get that confidence and you get those accomplishments, you become competent, right? Competent meaning you know exactly what the fuck you need to do. You know how much weight you're gonna lose, and you are cerebral in that. You know exactly where the fuck you need to be, and you have 100% belief that you will get those abs, you will get those cuts, right? It's inevitable as long as you just put in the work on a day-to-day basis, right? And now, once you've done that, you've eliminated the physical self-belief. You have the proof, you have the systems. All you have to do is execute. There is no more doubt. There is no more, I can't do this. There is no more, my body's not meant to be lean. Yes, it is. You just have to build the confidence and know that the work that you're putting in is actually going to breed results. All right, fellas, the second limiting belief that you need to eliminate, all right, is financial. All right. And what I mean by financial, fellas, when I was about 19 years old, right, I worked at a chicken joint. I made $11 an hour, right? I was working these long ass hours. I would work double shifts, right? I would work from like I would get there at 7, work my first shift from 7 to 3, right? And then I would get an hour break and then I would work from 4 to 11. All that shit for $11 an hour, right? And in the moment, fellas, when I was younger, when I was in high school, I was making pretty decent money, right? $11 an hour in high school when you have no responsibilities is a good income, right? I don't have to pay rent, I don't have to pay a car note, I don't have none of that shit, right? But as I started to get older, fellas, I started to realize $11 an hour is not shit, right? It's not anything. It is beyond below, especially in today's economy, way below minimum fucking wage, right? You can never live off $11 an hour, right? But as I was getting older and I was starting to realize that that shit is not enough, right? I started seeing motherfuckers like post picture with cash or like wads of money. You know what I'm saying? Post screenshots of their bank accounts, making all kind of bread, right? And I would just sit back and realize me at my age, right? I would always work hard. Like I would always show up to work. I would do what I need to do, put in the hours. But it's like I'm doing all this work and these motherfuckers is sitting up here with all this money. What the fuck am I doing wrong, right? Am I meant? Is this just my reality? Am I always gonna make $11 an hour? Right? Is this just gonna be what I am for the rest of my life? Right? I truly believe that. Right? I realize that, man. Yeah, maybe one day I'll get a 50 cent raise, a dollar raise, and I'll make $12 an hour, and then yeah, that'll be my progression, right? And it started to discourage me, right? It started to make me realize, like, damn, I'm putting in all this work, I'm working all these double shifts, and these motherfuckers are just sitting up, doing what the fuck they need to do and making all this money. What the fuck am I doing wrong? I'm not getting in trouble. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. Like I'm doing the right thing, right? But it's not leading to what the fuck I want to become. And fellas, eventually I ended up switching jobs, getting a better job, and ended up making $13 an hour, $14 an hour, right? But it still wasn't what the fuck I wanted, right? And then I finally found my first mentor, fellas. My first mentor was Brandon Carter, right? And I watched his story. I watched how he worked 4 jobs at one time, and they were super shitty manual labor jobs. He managed a restaurant. He worked for a moving company, right? And he worked these shitty jobs, right? And I figured out his story that like he worked these jobs, but he had to stack these jobs in order to take care of his family because his dad had committed suicide. His dad shot himself in the head, right? So he had no choice but to, you know what I'm saying, take care of his family, take care of his parents, right? And I watched his story and I realized he said, man, look, you have to take this money and find something that you're good at and develop a high income skill so that you can make more money, right? But in order to get to that level, you gotta start with working these shitty jobs, right? Don't be discouraged working this $11 an hour job if you know exactly what the fuck you about to do with this money, right? I knew that I worked harder than motherfuckers. I knew that I wasn't getting in trouble. I knew what, you know what I'm saying, that I was being a good, solid motherfucker trying to make it, right? I just didn't know the system. I just didn't know what the fuck I needed to do to what I needed to implement in order for me to make the income that I wanted, right? And once I found Brandon Carter, right, took that money and invested it to get into a mentorship, to learn from motherfuckers who was making more money than him, right? And he eventually was able to build an online fitness business that generated him a high income, right? But it all started with him working these shitty jobs that we don't want to work, right? It all started with him working 4 jobs at one time so that he can gain that income to learn from a motherfucker that is going to make him more money, right? And it's all about the fucking investment, right? And fellas, I did the same shit, right? At one time when I was working that job, making $13 an hour, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I need another source of income because I need to stack my bread so that I can invest in Brandon Carter's mentorship. So I started driving Uber, right? I remember I would work my first job from like 6 to 3. I would go home, take a shower, hit the gym, and then from like 5 to 11 some nights, or maybe even 5 to 1 on a good night, I would just deliver food. I would do Uber Eats, I would DoorDash, right? And I would stack both of those incomes and and eventually I saved enough money to invest in a mentorship, fellas. Invest in Brandon Carter's mentorship. I resonated with his story and I really fucked with it, right? And I seen that if he can do this shit based off his circumstances, I can do this shit. And I had a good fitness transformation, fellas. I lost over 100 pounds, right? So I already knew a high income skill. I was already knowledgeable in fitness and nutrition. All I needed to do is learn the systems and how to apply it to build another source of income for myself, right? Once I seen that it was possible from Brandon, I knew, fuck, I can do this too. I have a great fitness transformation. It's a win-win, right? So eventually I took that money that I made from doing both of those jobs and I invested. I invested in his mentorship. I learned all the systems. I learned how to do everything, right? And fellas, I shit you not, I remember when I got my first call, when I sold my first fitness program, I did an hour Zoom call, fellas, and I sold a fitness program for $1,000, right? In that moment right there, I realized, holy fuck, this is beyond possible. I got off that call and I just sat in my chair like, there's no way I just made $1,000 in literally an hour Zoom call, right? And that's when the belief came, fellas. That's when I realized it was possible. That's when I realized that I can do this shit even more, right? But it all took me investing. It all took me working that fucking second job and delivering food. It all took me taking that money and investing in Brandon and applying the systems, right? Once I got that and once I got off the Zoom call and I realized, oh, I can repeat this, right? I can make however much fucking money I want, right? I have no financial boundaries. I believe I can make as much money as I want to if I put in the effort and if I can continue to invest. So you may be thinking like, how can I do the same? First thing I want you to do, brother, is I want you to sit back, right? I want you to really sit back and think, right? What is something that you're knowledgeable in, that you may have a talent that you may be good at, right? That you enjoy doing, that you could see yourself teaching to other people, that you can start to build something that would help others and solve a specific kind of problem, right? It may be fitness. It may be you know how to sports bet, you know how to do drop shipping, you know how to maximize Uber Eats and DoorDash, right? And things like that. You can literally build a source of income just off teaching that if you're knowledgeable in something. But you got to sit back and think, what is that for you? What can you teach, right? That you're super knowledgeable in that will help solve somebody else's problem. Once you have that, what I want you to do is I want you to research that subject, right? You're already knowledgeable in it, but I want you to do as much research as possible. And one of the things I want you to research is who in that space that you're knowledgeable in is the most successful. Who's really killing it in that space, right? I knew when I was researching like fitness and like fitness business stuff, I came across Brandon Carter and I consumed a fuck ton of his content, right? I consumed all of his shit, right? Once I found it, I started watching his videos. I started watching all his videos, how to do this, how to apply this, how to apply that, as much free content as I can consume, and started to take notes. And I really want you to truly research this, because if you truly believe in this person, if you do your research and and make sure this person is not out here scamming and bullshitting you and shit like that, right? I want you to make that initial investment. I want you to invest and find a way to learn from that person specifically. What are his systems? How does he accomplish what he accomplished, right? What did he do specifically, right? And a lot of these people have mentorships. But I will warn you, do your research. Don't just throw money in a mentorship and get scammed. I've heard plenty of stories of motherfuckers getting scammed. They invest in a mentor and they never speak to this motherfucker, right? So boom, I invested into Brandon Carter's mentorship. It may be somebody different from you, right? I got it. I ended up getting another mentor, right? But you know, I felt that it was best for me. I related most to them, so I invested the money, right? And now you may be sitting there thinking, oh, what if I don't have the money, right? I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to do, right? If you don't have the money, right, you need to get another job, right? Right? You need to get another source of income so that you can have the necessary funds to invest, right? What is some different jobs you can get? My top pick, I wouldn't, if you got a vehicle that, you know what I'm saying, you don't pay, like you don't have like a V8 or like a crazy gas car, I can't even do DoorDash Uber Eats no more because I drive a Charger and the shit is just gonna kill my gas. So it's not worth it for me to get another job and drive, right? But the first thing I would say is like DoorDash food delivery. So like DoorDash and like Uber Eats and like Postmates and shit like that, right? You can make a bag, right? Right now, I'm gonna be real specific, fellas. DoorDash is not as good as it used to be, right? But Uber Eats is still pretty good, right? Fellas, I know I work with a guy. He does Uber Eats, right? And he uses he has a bike, right? He delivers food on his bike, right? I'm in the middle of Houston, right? He literally uses his bike. He doesn't have to pay for gas, right? He's getting exercise and he's getting an extra source of income, right? If you need to get on that motherfucking bike and start delivering food so you can invest in that mentorship, brother, get the motherfucking bike and start pedaling, please, right? But he does that, and Uber Eats is super, super way better than DoorDash right now, right? The second thing you can do if you got a good car, right? You can just do Uber. Like you can fucking drive motherfuckers everywhere, go chill by the airport, right? And fucking just take motherfuckers all day, right? Could be a great second source of income. And then the third was just like get another regular job, right? So like if you work at the chicken joint making $13 an hour, try to find a fucking burger joint at night and work there from 5 to 11, right? Any way to get another source of income, right? It sucks. You don't want to be, you're going to smell like ass. You're going to smell like French fries and chicken all day. I went through it, fellas. It's ass, right? But I remember, fellas, when I was working 2 jobs back in 2023, I worked a job in the morning and then I worked at Raising Cane's at night, right? I smelled like chicken and French fries and ass all day, but it was for a bigger purpose, so I didn't give a fuck, right? When I got off of work, I didn't want to drive, right? But I knew, fuck it, I got to do this so I can get this extra cash. All right, fellas, and all this money that you're getting from this another job, you can just save it, save it, save it, and once you get the amount that you need to invest into the mentorship, boom, right? You're golden, right? As long as you apply the systems that they teach you and you got a good mentor, right? It's all gonna pay off, right? Driving this motherfucking food gonna pay off. Working at that motherfucking burger joint gonna pay off, right? It's all for a bigger purpose. So in order for you to get into that mentorship and learn that information, you gotta do a little bit of sacrifice. You gotta pick up another job, maybe 3, right? You gotta get on that motherfucking bike and start delivering food if you ain't got a car. Oh well, right? It's all gonna pay off in the end. But it all starts with the sacrifice. Fellas, the third and final limiting belief that you must eliminate, right, in order to transform your life is mindset, right? So, fellas, when I was a little bit younger, I tended to have like a super negative outlook on things, right? I had a super negative outlook on whatever situation that happened in my life, right? I would always point the finger, blame others for my current situation, right? Oh, I can't get a raise at this job because they just don't fuck with me because of my skin color, right? Or they just cheap as fuck, so they don't want to give me a raise. Or like this chick don't want to date me because she ain't shit. When in reality, I was just fat as fuck. I would blame the economy. I would blame my bosses, right? I would blame me being fat as fuck. Oh, my mom never cooks healthy food, so how am I gonna eat healthy, right? Or, oh, eating healthy is expensive, so I can't, right? The gym membership is too much money. I don't have the money, so I can't work out. I would point the finger, point the finger, point the finger, point the finger, and look, instead of looking in the fucking mirror and blaming myself, right? If you're in a certain situation, at the end of the fucking day, there's something that you're not doing that's leading to the result of you being like that. I was 260 pounds fat as fuck because I was eating like shit and I didn't want to make the moves in order for me to lose the weight. I didn't want to give up the fast food. I didn't want to get up the video games. I didn't want to give up not sitting in the motherfucking house beating my dick all day, right? I didn't want to give it up, right? So what was the result? I was fat as fuck. I was unconfident, right? I didn't have no belief in myself, right? I was socially fucking awkward, right? But it was all because of me. And all these negative outlooks, all this finger pointing, all this fucking blaming didn't do shit but keep me in the same fucking position, the same fucking place over and over again. I would cry, bitch, and complain and blame the next motherfucker when I should have been blaming myself. So fellas, what the fuck did I do to change my outlook on life? What the fuck did I do to completely change my mindset so that I can stop blaming motherfuckers and start acting? Fellas, the number one thing I started doing, right, is I started consuming self-improvement content, right? I started consuming self-improvement content. So what did I mean? I talk about how I found Brandon Carter, right? I found Brandon Carter because of his story, right? His dad blew his brains out, right? His dad committed suicide and he had to take care of the family, right? I listened to his story. I listened to the things that he did, right? I started listening to those kind of podcasts. I started reading books, right? I recently just really picked up reading lately and I read the book Atomic Habits. That completely changed my life, right? Even now. And I always talk about how I invested in mentor. I invested in Brandon Carter's mentorship. Not only that, but I invested in another mentor, Cry, right? I seen both of my mentors have pretty unique stories, right? Brandon Carter's dad shot himself in the head. He had to take over and take care of the family, take care of his mom, his sister, and right? He had to work 4 jobs. He had to work for a moving company. He had to fucking manage a restaurant on the weekends and all of that shit, right? And my other mentor, Cry, right? He literally invested his last in a mentorship, right? And if the shit didn't work out, he was gonna have to drive back home to his family and go back and stay with his people, right? I seen all of those situations and I looked in the mirror and I was like, holy fuck, right? My situation is not even that bad, right? I got my parents. My parents support me. If anything goes wrong, I know that I can call my Dukes or anybody and be like, hey, mom, I'm in a situation right now. And 9 times out of 10, she gonna help me, right? I got that comfort, right? But I'm sitting here still bitching and complaining about my situation, and these motherfuckers is going through way worse than me. So who the fuck am I to complain about anything if these motherfuckers is going through that and they still making a fucking way and finding a way? Why the fuck am I crying? Why the fuck am I making excuses? Why the fuck am I acting like a soft ass bitch? I got it so much fucking sweeter compared to these motherfuckers. So what the fuck am I doing to change my situation other than crying like a fucking hoe? But it took me investing in those mentors and realizing and watching their stories, right? Investing in their consuming their content to realize that, bro, it's not, my situation is not bad at all. I'm just being a fucking soft bitch, right? I gotta put in the fucking work. If that motherfucker can do that, holy fuck, I'm at a much bigger advantage. Imagine what the fuck I can do. Imagine what the fuck I can become. Why the fuck am I complaining about my situation when I can literally be doing it's as good as these motherfuckers, if not better, right? I have way more accessibility to this shit. And it made me believe, fellas, it made me realize, bro, all I gotta do is put in the fucking work. And all you have to do is put in the fucking work. So I stopped bitching and complaining. I started driving Uber Eats. I started getting another job, right? I started putting up my fucking money where my mouth was, investing in these mentorships, right? And I started to get on that motherfucking grind, saying no to going out, parties and all that shit, isolating myself and trying to get better, right? And I started putting in the motherfucking work. And fellas, I may not be exactly where I want to be right now. I may not make the amount of money that the exact amount of money that I want, right? But I know I'm on my fucking way and I have the belief. Why? Because I've seen motherfuckers come from even worse. So what is my excuse? It is not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when. And if I continue to put in the work, if you continue to put in the work, right? You can do the shit too, right? But it all takes you finding somebody, finding that person who you believe in, finding that story who you resonate with, right? A lot of people talk about content, viral, right? The power is in the story. The power is in the journey. Everybody loves a comeback story. Don't no motherfucker give a fuck about a motherfucker who's already made it, who was spoon fed, who came from riches, right? Everybody wants to see a motherfucker come from the bottom. And I know that if I continue to consume that kind of content on a day-to-day basis, read the books on a day-to-day basis, right? My mind is going to be in a place to where I'm going to succeed. I will not fail. I will lose 100 pounds. That's why I lost 100 pounds. I will make $10,000 a month, right? I'm on my fucking way. I will be able to quit my job one day. I'm on my fucking way to doing that too, right? All of these things it wouldn't come to fruition if I didn't fucking believe. And a lot of times, the belief just comes from seeing another motherfucker who was probably in your situation, but even worse, still succeeding. And if you ever heard about the story of the 4 minute mile, I forgot who ran the 4 minute mile, but the first person ran the 4 minute mile, and it was this big motherfucking accomplishment. Nobody had ever seen it. And literally a year later, somebody broke the 4 minute mile, right? And for so long, nobody did this accomplishment, but people started to break it over and over and over and over again, back to back to back, right? It literally became normal, right? But it all started with that one motherfucker said, damn, I'm gonna break this 4 minute mile. And the other motherfucker who seen him break the 4 minute mile, he came back the next year and he trained for it. And what do you know? He broke the 4 minute mile a year later, right? But it all started with the belief. It all started with the proof. Once you have the proof, whether that's from yourself or from other motherfuckers, you have no excuse but to execute, right? So that is the third limiting belief, is mindset. Find you a fucking some self-improvement content, read some books, right? Start to indulge in shit and really get the belief, right? Really study the information that is going to make you become where you want to be, right? Get to where the fuck you need to be, right? And once you do that, right, there won't be no more limiting beliefs when it comes to mindset, right? You'll only believe progress. You'll only believe progression. You only believe making the amount of money you want to make. You only believe getting into the best shape of your life, right? And if you're looking for somebody who already believes, brother, you're looking to join somebody who's already been through this process and can literally teach you step by step, right? There's a link in the description. I need you to book the motherfucking call, but I want you to understand something. Don't book the motherfucking call if you're not ready to work, because all of these limiting beliefs, yeah, they're limiting beliefs, but at the end of the day, I had to put in the fucking work. And if you're not ready to put in the fucking work, please don't book the call, because you're going to continue to have these limiting beliefs. All these limiting beliefs are come behind hard fucking work and putting in the fucking effort. And if you don't do that, don't book the call, right? But that's the video for the day, fellas. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.